Great. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in about a minute. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll get started shortly. Good morning, everybody. I see folks are just joining in right now. We're going to get started shortly. Thank you so much for joining us. Great. I think let's get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rebecca Shi, and I am the Executive Director of the American Business Immigration Coalition. We are a bipartisan group of 1,400 CEOs and employers from around the country pushing for common sense immigration solutions to strengthen the economy and keep families together. Today, you will hear from some of our employer members, along with our partners, American Families United and Forward.us. 14 months ago, ABIC kicked off the Here to Work campaign, urging President Biden for administrative relief after Congress once again failed to pass bipartisan solutions. Last week, the president delivered for families and everyday Americans. President Biden announced 2 executive actions granting work permits and legal status to 550,000 undocumented spouses and children of U.S. citizens who on average have lived in this country for 23 years. The president also announced a streamlined process for DACA recipients and some undocumented dreamers to secure work permits. American employers can immediately sponsor their dreamers for a work visa. These actions are common sense. They're good for families, good for business, and overwhelmingly popular, supported by 76% of American voters and families. And it benefits 10.6 million U.S. citizens who live in the same household as an undocumented family member. Personally, this win was so meaningful because my mother benefited from parole in place, and my father, a U.S. citizen, sponsored for her green card. At the age of 61, my mother got a job at a laboratory treating cancer patients, showing that when you legalize people who are already contributing, you unleash their economic potential, and that is good for everyone. So thank you, President Biden, for keeping families together and boosting the economy. Spouses of U.S. citizens and our dreamers are already contributing. With a legal work permit and legal status, they will add an additional $6.6 billion in new taxes each year. These actions are common sense and far more popular than mass deportations and family separation policies. Responsible leaders pursue bipartisan solutions and do not demonize entire groups of workers and humans. It is my honor to introduce Ashley de Acevedo, the president of American Families United.
Thanks, Rebecca, and thank you everyone here today. My name is Ashley de Acevedo, and I'm the president of American Families United. I'm fighting for 1.1 million U.S. citizens across the country that we represent, whose spouses who have been facing separation. I'm a mom. I have an energetic, wonderful 11-year-old son. I own a hair salon in New Jersey. But unfortunately, I've been cast into this world of immigration advocacy because I'm the wife of a man who's a long-term undocumented immigrant who has not been able to adjust his status, even though we've been married for 12 years. My father's side of the family has been here since the American Revolution. And on my mother's side, I'm a third-generation Italian-American with ancestors who processed through Ellis Island. Since the president's announcement last week that he will be granting work permits to hundreds of thousands of spouses of U.S. citizens like my husband, my feet have not hit the ground. After years of living in the shadows, there is finally light at the end of the tunnel, and it was overwhelming to be at the White House and listening to the president deliver those remarks. People just don't understand. The system hasn't worked for citizens like me. And it doesn't work like you see in the movies. You don't marry an American citizen and automatically get a green card. Quite the contrary. I should know because I was in love, newly married, or married and newly pregnant when my husband and I sat down with an immigration attorney so we could work through the process of his spousal visa pathway. The lawyer told us that to follow this pathway, my husband would have to leave the country for 10 years. And it felt like someone just completely took the air out of my lungs. At that point, with a baby on the way, we had to make a really difficult decision, which meant my husband would continue to live here as like a second class citizen where we weren't eligible for a lot of the same benefits that most US citizens are based on our marriage. And he unfortunately hasn't been able to return to Brazil to see his family. He hasn't hugged his mom in 18 years. His father passed away and he wasn't able to be there with him or say a final goodbye. That is the human toll of our broken immigration system. Our members, just like me, have been living in the shadows with their family for decades. Too many of our members who have spouses who have already been removed or left the country to follow the process and are now stuck trying to find a path back to their family here in the United States. Let me be clear. This was a big, big step forward that the president took, and we are proud. We're grateful for this action from President Biden. And we're urging him and his team to implement this swiftly and implement it as generously as possible to include as many families as we can. We're US citizens, we're your neighbors, your friends and colleagues. We're fighting for our undocumented spouses. Thank you, President Biden, for keeping our families together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you so much for your courage and your leadership. It is my honor to introduce Todd Schulte, the president and CEO of Forward.us. Todd?
Well, it's really my honor to be here with Becca and everyone from ABIC, from Ashley, from everyone from AFU, and everyone here. The work and the leadership has just been incredible. My name is Todd Schulte. I'm the president of Forward.us. We are a bipartisan advocacy organization who works on immigration and criminal justice policy. I really want to hit on a couple points. I think the first is, on average, the spouses who will benefit directly have been in this country for 23 years. That means that huge numbers of people came before them. Since this announcement, have had multiple people reach out to me about themselves, loved ones, family members, friends, clients who came here when Ronald Reagan was president, who came here when the first President Bush was in office, when President Clinton was in office. And if you think about everything that has happened during that time to our country, so broadly, but then think about everything in our own lives that's happened. Where were you in 1987, in 1994? Were you even alive? I just think that this was such a tremendous step forward to keep families together. And I think it stands in contrast to threats and promises of people to rip families apart, of people at their most vulnerable when they're seeking refuge, but to seek and also families who are incredibly vulnerable, whether they've been here 10 years, 20 years, something that would absolutely devastate every single corner of the country. And so I think as we're sitting here today, celebrating this tremendous step forward, as we are sitting here today, getting ready to see what the debate will hold, and I think we kind of know some of the stuff to expect here. This is a huge step forward. It was the most positive step forward in a decade at least. And it is merely saying that it is best, not just for these families, but best for all Americans, if we say, rather than saying to families, you know what, like, you have a pathway, but that pathway means going back to a country, maybe for 3 years, maybe for 10 years, maybe forever, maybe for 20 years. We're just going to make it a little bit easier for those families to be together. And that's best for all Americans. So it's an honor to be here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Todd. And next, I'm honored to introduce Allison Batista with American Families United, a U.S. citizen from Pennsylvania.
Good morning. My name is Allison Batista. I'm a board member of American Families United, and I'm a Pennsylvania wife and mom. I'm so grateful for President Biden's leadership in making sure families like mine have the freedom to be together in peace. I'm a fourth-generation U.S. citizen from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm a former Spanish teacher in the school district of Philadelphia. My husband and I own a construction company. He is a Brazilian national who has been unable to successfully gain a path to legal status despite our 20-year marriage. We have 3 U.S. citizen children, and initially I believed our marriage would be an easy fix to the problems he faced. But like Ashley said, every legal opinion we received during the 20 years of our marriage told us that we can either leave the U.S. for a minimum of 10 years with no guarantee of return, or stay in the shadows and cross our fingers that the law was going to change. I'm now 52 years old, and after these 20 years of marriage, I've spent 2 decades of my life telling my family's story to anyone and everyone who will listen. It means the world to me that thanks to this action from President Biden, I may not have to do this another 20 years. I'm 72 until I'm 72. Over 1.1 million U.S. citizens with undocumented spouses have been in my situation, tired, angry, feeling neglected, living in trauma and fear of separation year after year. Now there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we hope that this program will be provided the resources and focus to be implemented as swiftly and efficiently as possible in a generous and streamlined manner. My husband and I have created a beautiful life with our 3 children. Thanks to this action from President Biden, I and hundreds of thousands of U.S. citizen spouses can hope toward a future without fear. In tonight's debate, we're likely to hear proposals of bringing back mass deportations and family separation. That is terrifying. It would result in U.S. citizens being separated from their spouses, immigrant families being destroyed, and children losing parents. It is wrong and cruel. President Biden's recent action puts us on a compassionate, fair, common sense path, and I hope we see much more of that from him and from both parties in Congress. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Allison, for your courage and for your leadership. It's my pleasure to introduce Peter Guzman, who is the president and CEO of the Nevada Latin Chamber of Commerce. Peter?
Yes. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for having me. And thank you for allowing my perspective and voice to be part of this. That's something that we've been working on for quite a while. My name is Peter Guzman, president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce. And as you're going to hear from many employers as we move forward, they are desperate for labor. There just is not enough workers to go around. If everyone who's unemployed got a job, there would still be 3.5 million open positions. I hear my members loud and clear. In Las Vegas, for example, where we have a 24-hour economy, our hotels and casinos simply could not open without immigrant workers. That is just a fact. We have a lot of construction members who are desperately looking for filling key roles, and it's just not working out. And it's now starting to affect our housing supply, our housing costs, and we need to do better. So to me, this is not only compassionate, but it's economic development. It's about our economy, and this is crucial. It's also morally right. I can't imagine splitting families up. So that, to me, is something that we can't do. If this helps one person in a dignified manner, the Latin Chamber of Commerce and myself will be all for it. We know, and this is key, we know that both parties have kicked this down the road too many times already. We need comprehensive immigration reform. We know that. Anybody who denies it is just not living in reality. That's the most dignified thing that Congress, both parties, who equally share in kicking this down the road, need to think about and need to get on point with comprehensive immigration reform. And so, that being said, this is a big step. Obviously, this is a step of not breaking up families and giving the dignity to those that are already here, working hard, committing no crimes. We need them paying taxes, being part of our great American opportunity, our American dream. So my hope at the end of the day is that we get momentum off of this, but that we also all work together to get comprehensive immigration reform. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your remarks and for your leadership. It's my pleasure to introduce John Graham. And John is a national board member with the American Business Immigration Coalition. And thank you so much for being here, John.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning. My name is John Graham, and I am the CEO of Sunbelt Holdings and serve on the board of the American Business Immigration Coalition. Sunbelt Holdings has been a leader in the real estate development, management, and investment throughout the Southwest since 1979. As a longtime leader in the Arizona business community, I want to applaud President Biden for his actions he took last week to grant permits to spouses of U.S. citizens and dreamers. Clearly, this is economically vital. We've got a massive workforce shortage, and we've got people who want to work. Some have worked in the shadows, barred from fully contributing to our economy while putting their own lives on the line for Arizonans as healthcare workers, home health aides, and personal care aides. While many of us worked from home during the pandemic, these essential workers served us by cleaning buildings, providing transportation, working in grocery stores, and caring for our children. Undocumented essential workers quietly sacrificed and stepped up during the pandemic for one reason: we need them. So this is morally right. Thanks to the president's decision, families across Arizona have reason to hope that they will be able to be with their loved ones in safety and security. And many of the more than 36,900 DACA eligible young people in our state will have the opportunity to pursue their dreams for their benefit and ours. People like Dalia Larios, who graduated from ASU with a 4.0 GPA and went on to Harvard Medical School, and promising young men like Oscar Vasquez, who started a robotics team at ASU and served 2 tours in Afghanistan and the U.S. Army. Common sense solutions like the ones the president just charted are the direction we need to go. Going in a different way towards mass deportations, for instance, would increase the already rising inflation, worsen the crushing labor shortage across every sector, not to mention tear apart American and immigrant families and threaten public safety by creating a climate of fear for immigrant workers and communities. So again, I appreciate the president's leadership and hope to see much more in this direction from him and from both parties in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. There we go. Thank you so much, John, and thank you so much for your leadership nationally and in Arizona. It is my pleasure to introduce John Oswald, who is a leader in manufacturing and is the president and CEO of Mills Manufacturing in North Carolina. John?
Good morning and thank you. Yeah, I'm John Oswald, President and CEO of Mills Manufacturing. We're a prime defense contractor for the U.S. military, manufacturing parachutes and related equipment for over 90 years. We're a privately held family business. I just need to say it is great to see the progress being made here towards immigration reform. It's desperately needed. I think it's a great first step. Our company prides itself on a good working environment. We have a lot of long-term employees, low turnover, stable work, and a key supplier to the U.S. military. With that, we average about 165 employees. Recently, after coming out of COVID, we were down to about 110 employees. Our projections and what we needed for to meet our needs and obligations, we needed to be at about 185 employees. We've struggled to get there. Right now, we're currently at 150 employees, so we're still short, but we're catching up. And what this does is it affects our ability to meet our contracts. It affects our ability to take on new business, and it affects the employment stability of the people that we do currently have working for us, because we have minimum needs that we have to meet. And if we can't fulfill those jobs, it puts everybody's job at risk. over the last 2 to 3 years, we've actually rejected more business than we've taken on. And there are no other suppliers. We're one of 2 parachute manufacturers, qualified parachute manufacturers in the United States. And when we're not taking on that business, there's nobody else coming behind us that can take on the business. So the needs of the U.S. military go unmet. As it stands now, we're not taking on any foreign business. We typically have a lot of foreign business, but we're not able to take on any foreign business just because we can't keep up with the needs of the U.S. military. That being said, we pride ourselves on the diversity of our workforce. We are currently a third Hispanic, a third Eastern European, and a third native U.S. citizen. And we pride ourselves in the way that these cultures and these groups work together, take care of each other, and support each other. And our company would not be successful without the combination of all 3 of them. And we are so dependent, supportive of each other, and we need all 3 of these groups to kind of help us be successful. So with that, we think that this change is a very, very positive step forward. And all we can do is continue to encourage both Republicans and Democrats alike to continue to push for more positive change on the immigration front. So it's a benefit to our economy, a benefit to the people that live and work here. It's just overall good policy. So thank you very, very much for the time and for the support. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you for your remarks and for your leadership in North Carolina and also nationally. So now we're going to open it up for questions. So the first question, and we're just going to bring our panelists back. So the first question is for Peter. Hello, Peter. Can you say something in Spanish about your expectations of the debate and potential Trump's false claims? Peter.
Well, I actually did answer it in the box, and I'm always very, very honest. You can hear me, right?
Yes. Peter, are you able to say in Spanish? The reporter is asking.
Yeah, I will say it in Spanish, but I want to make sure all my colleagues understand it.
Oh, okay, sure.
What my answer was, because I answered it. I expect both persons in the debate tonight to throw false claims around. That's what happens in every debate. That's why I believe comprehensive immigration reform is the only answer. And so if you want me to say that in Spanish, happy to. No puedo tener una respuesta a esa pregunta, pero honestamente los dos van a decir cosas que a lo mejor son falsos. Eso es lo que pasa en todos los debates, y principalmente cuando uno es de la Partido Republicano y el otro es Democrat, siempre va a haber cosas falsas. Yo creo que la única respuesta aquí, la única manera que podemos terminar esto es con hacer más agresivo, tener comprehensive immigration reform.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter. And from the North Carolina Newsline, is there concern that anti-immigrant forces will bring core challenges to this initiative? So I guess I can start. I would just say that we can't really control litigation and people aiming to litigate, bring this lawsuit. But what we do know is that a Trump-appointed judge in Texas strongly affirmed the president's parole authority several months ago. So we know that this is very strong legal standing. And then secondly, this isn't a new program. This is actually built upon the parole for the military families program that is strongly bipartisan and always supported in every Congress. And I would just say third is what Ashley and Allison said, is that this impacts U.S. citizens. There are 10.6 million U.S. citizens who live in the same household as an undocumented family member. And so they're paying attention. They're paying attention in Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. And so that there are, this is politically popular and this impacts people, that will come out and are motivated to vote in November. I'll pass it over to Ashley or Todd or others that want to jump in here.
I just echo what Rebecca said, that I think that there is a very strong legal standing here. There's been a lot of great legal minds working on this to make sure that the policy is as strong as possible. And that I think the message I want to get out is that I just really caution that Republicans need to be careful in attacking this program, because it is spouses of US citizens that are impacted here. Personally, my mom is a Republican and was with me at the White House listening to President Biden make these remarks. And when Stephen Miller and Donald Trump came out saying negative things about this policy afterwards, I can tell you that she will not be voting for him after hearing that, and wanting to make sure that my husband, my little nuclear family here is safe. So we have to make sure that I just caution Republicans that they're not going to get the win here that they're expecting with that type of rhetoric or opposition to helping US citizens in a difficult situation. Todd?
I mean, there's nothing more powerful than that last point, just to say. Immigration means a lot of things. And, you know, the same folks who tried to end DACA and lost in the court, the same folks who did family separation at the border and then were forced to back off in global outcry. I should actually note, for people covering the debate, I think a really good question. You're going to hear a lot, if this comes up, people are going to try to pivot and scream about the border. And trying to really focus people back on these questions is important. But also, when it comes to the border, they refuse to actually say that they would resume family separation. And I think that's the tell here, right? Like, if you actually make this about families, it's not big abstract numbers here. The American public is widely supportive of this. And, you know, look, parole authority is something that every single president of both parties has used going back 7 decades, including the last president, who used this exact authority quite generously. And so this is something that is a clear authority in existing law. This is people who have a pathway, and it is simply removing a barrier so they can access it more easily. And this is widely popular. And so, you know, whatever people may say when they puff their chest, and as I heard someone say in a podcast, talk like cartoon villains. Look, I want to be clear. I cannot express enough how much I think Ashley's point is right, that this would be a terrible political fight for people to pick.
Great. So I have a last question here, and just for the press on the line, if you have questions, please drop it in the chat. But the last question I can see right now is for the employers on the call. What would a Trump presidency, and if he follows through on his promise of mass deportations, what would this policy mean for the employers? This policy of mass deportations mean for the employers? Guess I can kick it to John.
Sure. I mean, I'll take it first, but you already heard from the other John is how it's affected his business directly. But we're in the development business and really rely on the construction business to support what we do. And whether it's that or hospitality or others, it would be absolutely catastrophic. And that's a word I use regularly, and people say, that is that a little too strong? And I say, no, maybe it's an understatement. So I think it would be an enormous problem.
Yeah, I think it would just echo that. It'd just be scary. I mean, not just on us and us directly as employers, but our entire economy would just be in jeopardy. We're trying to build this foundation of workers and people, and it's just going in the wrong direction. And I think the unintended consequences I don't even think we could comprehend the devastation and unintended consequences that would kind of hit the entire economy, not just my business, but all businesses.
Great. Thank you. Peter, do you want to comment on this?
No, I think that any talk of mass deportation, I find that sometimes to be noise. It's ridiculous. Again, I hate to keep beating the drum, but all of this happens because there's not enough courage in Washington to do comprehensive immigration reform. We shouldn't even be having these kind of conversations. It's just ridiculous to me, and it's undignified. We got to put pressure on these folks to stop telling us that it's too hard and to this and to that. It's creating an environment of hatred and racism that I've never seen before. And so let's stop with that. We're the United States of America. We can do better, much better.
That's great. Thank you. That's really nice note to end on, Peter. Rob asked John Oswald, you're located in Asheville, is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I think that was the last question. This concludes our press conference. Thank you all very much. You will, if any further questions, please follow up with Ryan on our team, or you'll get a release from him shortly. So thank you all very much to all of our panelists, and we'll see you at the debate tonight. Take care, everybody.